Hello, welcome to this demonstration of Sigma. My name is Kim Blake and I'm going to take you through some of the screens that you'll see once you've been upgraded. I've started with the log-on page. So once I sign in, I've defaulted my opening page to what we call the tree configuration. So Sigma is made up of menus, and you can see here the different menus, and I'll take you through various parts of that as we go through the demonstration. I've started here at the setup menu and then configure tree. So here's my tree view. If I open it up, you can see we have an organization. This is my company. You can have organizations underneath. You can have groups. You can have groups under groups, and you can have sites under groups, and you can have groups under sites. And then here we have some meters. So we've got a gas, electric, and a water meter as example. And then you've got the search menu here. So if I search for a meter, you can see it's come here, and here's the meter details. So you'll see the path within Sigma that meter sits. You can see what type of meter it is, so electricity, it's half hourly, it's got a contract attached to it, and I'll explain that shortly. We've got the serial number, we've got the meter prefix and meter number, so the MPAN details, an import code, and various tick boxes. And then we have tags. So tags are either inherited. So if I put a tag of DEM at the top level, it will inherit it to all the objects underneath. Others are predetermined by what the meter is. So for this instance, it's a half hourly. So it's a high frequency meter. You can add individual tags yourself and then also create those inherited ones if you want to. Let me just edit this meter as an example, and you'll see there's various tabs of information. The first one being the general tab, where we have those details again. So we've got the meter type, the frequency, we've got the serial number, we've got the MPAN, etc. The second tab here is a contract tab. Now this shows us any accounts that are on the same site. If I scroll down, anything that's ticked is an account that's associated with this meter. This meter also has a cost contract. That's not a mandatory field, but we've added a contract into the database and associated with this meter. Purpose of the contract is to be able to do cost reporting based on your metered consumption, or to be able to validate your bills against things like your standing charge, your rate 1, your rate 2, VAT, etc. So I'm just going to close out of here. So I'll cancel. And I'll just show you some of the other parts of this particular menu. So the first menu, the setup menu, I was on configure tree, but you've got things like mass edit the sites or mass edit the meters, or export the tree, so you can export all of your items from the tree, so the sites, the groups, the meters, etc. Other things that you can do from this menu is your security, so you can add in users, you can manage your users and change passwords. Let me move on to the data menu. So in here, I'm going to have a look at some of the metering data. So if I go to meter data, you'll see that it's followed through with that same meter. And if I have a look at 2024, March the 16th, we can see there those half hourly values. If I change the meter and have a look at a water meter, I can show you some monthly meters. So we just change this to a different number and search. And here we have a water meter. So looking at 2024, but here you can see we've got monthly meter readings. You've got the add button at the bottom if you want to add a meter reading in. Alternatively, you can import your data. So from the data menu, you can either do an auto import or a manual. So the auto import, this will list any automatic imports that are happening. So that could be for half-hourly data, it could be for your EDI billing or a CSV file of bills. But they will be listed in here. If we wanted to import a file though, if I go back to data and import data, and then this will show me any imports for today. If I just change this to look at this year, you can see any that have come in either automatically or have been put in manually. If I click on add, this is where you would add the details of the file. So what type of file it is, the actual file, and then save would import it. Once you've imported the data, you can then come back to the data menu and have a look at the quality. So we've got a data quality analysis page. In here, I can search for a site. So I'll search for head office. And we can see the colours through from green to red regarding the quality of the data that's in there. So you can see some orange here, slightly lighter red here, and then with a lot of green, and then where we've got some data missing. So you can click on these sections and see it in more detail, or you can say you want to autofill. You can autofill all of the data, and then there's various different ways that you could autofill. So that's a couple of bits from the data menu. I'm going to come back to the reporting, financial and invoice validation, and then just move to the alarms for now. So alarms are on your metering data, and you can configure the alarms and then view and work through the raised ones. So you can set as many alarm types as you like. And here we've got a few different ones. So you can check for missing data, you can check for nil data, flatlining, and trends and profiles. Once they're set up, as we've got here, we can have a look at those raised alarms in here. So all of these alarms have been raised. If I want to have a look at one in particular, it will show me the details about it, data I've got, and then in this instance, where the gap is. Now I can go away and use that data quality analysis to fill the gap. I could go to the metering data and add a reading in, and then I can acknowledge the alarm. So I could say it was a data gap and that I filled it in data analysis, for instance, and then acknowledge. So that's the alarms. And the projects, if I just have a look at the summary here, just change the path again for you. And you can see here, you can create one or more policy, and those policies can have one or more projects against them. They start as an opportunity and you decide whether or not you want to go further with that. If you do, it becomes a project and you add all your details about your project, how much it's going to cost you, what you're going to save, etc. And then you can do some performance on it. Coming back to the financial menu, I mentioned contracts on the meter. So the contract is attached to the meter. And because the account is attached to a meter, it could also use that contract. We've got some examples in here. If I just have a look at this one for you, if I edit. And you can see here, you've got the histories. So where there's been changes or price increases, the meters it's attached to, and any attachments. So the histories, if I highlight one of these and look at the summary, we can see here for this particular contract and history, we've got daily rates, which are between 7 and 6 at just over 35 pence, night rates just under 20 pence, no CCL, UK standard rate VAT, and a fixed charge of 85 pence a day. So if those prices change, you then add in a new history. As I said, that can be used to do some cost reporting for your metering data or to validate your invoices. If you didn't want to put contracts in, you can put in blended rates. So blended rates allow you to put in some ballpark figures if you like, and then still be able to do that cost reporting based on your metering data. So with regard to invoicing, we've got the invoice validation menu here, and there's various sections to it. If I start off with manage portfolios, so each company will have at least one portfolio. Most of you will only need one, and within there, all of your accounts sit. So once you have a portfolio, you can then manage a validation. So the manage validation rules are here. Again, you can have more than one type, and you attach these rules to the portfolio. And this is just the checks that it's going to do when you input your invoices. So things like critical checks, checking the invoice start and end dates, etc. Asset checks, cost and usage checks, where you can put in higher and lower tolerances, reading and usage checks, invoice checks, and the invoice versus the calculated checks. So that's up to you how many or how few validators you put in there. And once you have that set up, as I said, that's then attached to your portfolio. All of the accounts will sit under here in the Manage Accounts section. So you'll be able to come in here and view all of your accounts, or narrow it down using the search and the path, or by simply putting in an account number in the search field here. Most of the grids that you see within Sigma, you can move around. You can change the columns. You can change the width. You can add in or hide columns. Once you're happy with how that looks, you save your view, and then you can use that each time that you go into your database. So within this grid here, I've just got 41 accounts. That's all that I have within my database. So I'm viewing all of them. And then we have the pages down here. So if I up that to 100, I would see all of them at once. The account number is a hyperlink. And if I click on there, it will give me details about the account. So the account number, the fuel type, start and end dates, and any meter or meters that it's attached to. I can edit from there as well. The queries, the open queries, is a hyperlink. If I click on there, that will show me any queries that are outstanding. So we have one query listed in here. So again, I can click on the description and that will open up the query for me, which has 4 tabs of information. So we have the query here with any reasons and a description. We have the link to objects. So in this case, an account, any events, and the status of it. If I want to view the invoices, I can either open up Manage Invoices and search for the account, or link directly from here. So if I click on here, right click and view invoices. And this will show me all of the invoices relating to that invoice number. Once I'm in here, again, we've got hyperlinks for the account, a hyperlink for the invoice number, and that will show me the invoice details. If I take a look here, we can see we've got 4 tabs of information. The first one being the invoice details. The second, the consumption details, so either meter readings or the consumption values. Then we have the charges. So a list of all of the charges, so standing charge, CCL, VAT, etc. And then we have the validation summary. So if the invoice has been validated, we would see anything that it's failed on. You can add in or take out the past and the skipped. Or if you just wanted to look at any one of these, you can just undo the others and concentrate on one type. Various buttons at the bottom here. So the first one being the invoicing history. So this will show me by default the last 12 months, or I can change it to 24 months or all time. So you get a grid of the data plus the graph. If I just scroll over, various different columns that are available there. You can add in or hide various things, including any unloaded invoices. So if you deal with EDI files, you can show your unloaded EDI bills as well. You've also got your queries here, so you can go straight to manage your queries. So you can view any existing or add a new one in. You can view and add notes, view and add attachments, and view your PDF. And then view would just bring that invoice up with all these details on a bigger screen. If I was adding a new invoice, got the add button here, or if I right click on the invoice and add latest, that will give me the details. So that will pre-fill with the account number, the start date of the invoice, etc. And you've also got the option here to see things like the invoicing history and also to export your accounts payable file. You might do EDI files. If you do, you would either set up an auto import for those to come in, or you would import them the same place that you would do your half-hourly data, for example. Once you've imported the file, if I come back to the invoice validation menu and down to manage batch imports. In here, you'll see any batches that have been uploaded. And if I click on the hyperlink, it will open up that particular batch. Various things that you'll see here. This part here is telling me the details of the invoices. So I've got 2 that are loaded, 3 that are passed, validation failure. You've got your hyperlinks to look at your account details, to look at your invoice details, and to look at your queries. It's the same as we saw on the other screens. If I right click on an invoice, you've got various options in there as well. So again, seeing that invoicing history or viewing the original invoice, which brings us back to this page with those options again at the bottom. So a past invoice can be changed to loaded, and that can be done in bulk as well. So if I tick all the past ones, bulk actions, and then I could load those invoices. Once you've loaded your invoices, you may want to do an accounts payable file. So similarly from here, I can create that file. So I've only got 2 invoices that are loaded at the moment, but if I click on live only here, this will show me those 2 invoices. I can highlight them, bulk actions, and then export accounts payable information. You can either then do a test run or you can do a live run. You can include or exclude your PDFs. And in here would be the format that you have your accounts payable file. So that's the EDI file side of things. You can complete a batch, and once you've completed it, it drops off this list here. So this list that I first went into, so that was the manage batch imports. This is really a list of what I've got to do. Once I've completed it, I'll mark it as complete and it will come off this list. I can still search for them by including them in the search, but at the moment, this is just showing me what I still need to work on. You've got the manage queries in here, so that would show you all of the queries. And you've got some accruals that you can do here and some invoice analysis. If I move on to the reporting menu, or move back to, there are various types of reports. So we have analysis reports here, and then we have a report wizard on this side here. If I start with the analysis summary, this shows me the different analysis that's available. So this will just give me an idea of what it's like, and then I've got the option to click to open it up. If I start with the energy analysis, so I can either click on here or I could go straight to it from here. So this allows you to choose what meter you want to run the analysis on, or what meters, what date range you want. I could do a date range, or I can do a specific date range, what interval I want the data at, what I want to output, so the cost, consumption, CO2, CO2e, how I want the graph to look, and then some other options over here. So you could show raw values. You can use your invoicing data by, instead of saying meter default, I can change that to invoice data, and then that will, instead of looking at the meters, it will look at the invoices. You can do comparisons. So if you have budgets in the database, you can do a comparison against a budget. However, if you want to be able to run the same report time and time again, if you create a template, so you would fill in the details in here, come to the details and save that template. When you then come in to this screen, you'll see all of your templates listed here, and you can just run them straight away. So here's a template we created earlier. If I load template, what it will do, it will fill in those fields for me. So the meters, the period, the interval, the consumption type, etc. So instead of dragging and dropping everything over and filling in the fields, I've used a template. Once that's there, you just run the template and that will run the report for me. So I can see all of the data here, and I've also got the tabular data at the bottom. Now, if a particular part interests me, I can click on it and drill down into it and drill down again. So that's the energy analysis. And as I said, there's various templates that you create yourself, and then you can run them time and time again. Once you have a template, you can also then create a schedule. So that schedule can come out to you, for instance, once a month. So you don't even have to come in and run it. It will just run it to your email. So back to the reporting menu. As I said, there's various types of analysis here. Then there's also the dynamic wizard, sorry, the dynamic reports, and they're a collection of analysis reports. So you choose which reports you want to put onto one page, basically. And then we have the report wizard. So the report wizard is a different way of reporting. And if I generate a report in here, you can see the various folders where you've got info. And for each one, you'll see a thumbnail. So if I wanted to run this report, if I go next, and if I choose my meter, and if I choose last month, and then next, and then view report. When you view the report, you have the options here for PDF, Excel, etc., but it will automatically run the PDF for you. Now we have the report. So this is quite a comprehensive report. Because I have a contract attached to it, it can take that metering data and give me day and night figures, etc. We've got those charges in there based on the contract. Got the monthly profile. And then a yearly summary. And then a yearly comparison by month. Into Sigma, same as before, you can save a template and you can schedule them as well. So that's the analysis reports, dynamic reports, and the report wizard. Also on this menu, we have the budgets. So you can create budgets. Here's an example here. And there's various different ways to do that. So you can either say an automatic budget, putting 5% on, for example, of last year's costs or consumption, or you can say you have a flat lines, or you can put in a manual amount with different profiles. Once you have those budgets, you can then do the analysis. So I've got a template that I've already created just to show you. Load the template. That fills in the data for me and then run. And there's our budget. So that's the menus across the top here. If I come across to the right-hand side, we've also got a menu here. So my account is my details. And then we have dashboards. So dashboards can be created. You can either have a private dashboard or a dashboard that's shared amongst everybody. And this is just an example that we've set up, and we've got our electric, our gas, and our water for my whole organisation for the previous 12 months. You can have different pages, and you can also narrow down what you're seeing. So if you didn't want to see the whole database, you could just choose one of your companies or your sites. And you might want to look at a different period. So I go to the general and look for the last month. You'll see the figures change. Now we have the last financial year just for one part of the database. If I click on home, that will take me back. And then I want to show you the Express version. So that's a lighter version of Sigma. So as an advanced user, I've also got the option to see Express, or you can have just Express users. And they can have access to the energy analysis, to templates, to the alarms, to the dashboards, and to meter reading. So the energy analysis, as I showed you in the main database, so I could search for head office. That will just show me one of the meters I've chosen there, or I can bring over all of the meters that are associated with the head office. I can change the time, so I could look at a year. I can change the look of the graph. And I can either do consumption, cost, or CO2. And we've got the chart data there as well. The templates are the templates that you've created in the live database. So they come through into here. So any user can then run one of those templates. The same as the report templates. They come through. But you've also got the option to open up the report wizard from here. So if it's not a template that you need, you can open up the report wizard and run it like I did within the main database. The raised alarms come through into here as well, so you can work through those. The dashboards, and then you've got your meter readings. So you can create meter reading walking routes. And then this will display all of the meters within that route, and you can add your new meter reading in and then save those, and they will go directly into Sigma. So either people have access to just this or advanced and express. I'm just going to go back to advanced, which takes me to my account. So my details and the pages that I want to land on. And I started off on the setup menu and then configure tree. So the menus show you the different parts of the database. And then you've got your tree here. We can open up and see all of the areas. There are help files available. And as before, you've got the different sections that you can work your way through. So for instance, getting started, how to log in, and your preferences, etc. There are some videos available. So we've got some pre-recorded sessions in here, and this goes into more detail on the areas that I've just shown you. Thank you for listening. We'd now like to invite you for any questions.